Morning and hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, please help us out by subscribing. Thank you so much. And let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. Look who I have with me today. It's actor William Davis. So welcome, William.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're on the show. As you can see, I'm a little bit nerdy. So having you on is a big deal for me.
Okay. That's good.
And we're back. So Zoom wasn't cooperating, but we got to figure it out. So let's try this again, William. Welcome to the show. You've got a new book that's out today on acting and life. So excited to get a chance to talk to you about it. But before we do, let me ask you how you got started with acting. And I know you've done a lot of directing too. So talk a little bit about, what got you into the entertainment business, how you went about doing that.
Well, it started a long time ago. It started when I was very young. What basically happened is my cousins, second cousins, they were half a generation older than I.
Okay.
They ran a summer stock company, a summer theater company in Ontario in Canada. And so they performed in a tourist area in north of Toronto. But before going north, they rehearsed in Toronto in our basement, my family's basement. So they were doing a play called Portrait in Black, and they needed a 12-year-old or 11-year-old boy. And I was right there. I was handy. So they said, you do it. So I did it. So I did this, and it went quite well. And so that gave me a bit of the bug. And so then I got an acting teacher in Toronto. And then she got me auditions for CBC radio drama, there being no television or film in Toronto at that time.
That's right.
Radio drama being where it was. And I got some roles, and I started to work as a radio actor and continued to do one play a summer with my cousin's theater company. And that was the start.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Have you got to hear any of those radio programs like recently in the last several years?
Not too often, several years. I certainly did within the last 25 years, maybe.
Okay.
Because later in my career, I went back to the CBC as a radio producer director and was directing audio drama. And then, of course, we listened to the real old time ones, and we kind of laughed a lot at how they used the same music all the time and how they saved money. But yeah. I mean, radio drama was a major activity, of course, at that time, and some of the old ones have got a cult following, as you know. But.
Oh yeah, of course. Is there a difference in acting for radio and acting in front of an audience or for a camera?
Certainly, and in some measure, yes, because on radio, you don't actually learn your lines. You actually have a script in front of you that you're holding. So
that would help me.
But you have to speak your lines as if you were not holding a script, as if you're actually talking.
That would not help me.
and back when I was doing it, it was live. So that meant you had to be at the microphone at the right time in the right place. You had to turn the pages of your script so silently that they could not be heard. You had to know if your line was at the top of the next page. So little things like that were quite unique techniques for the radio actor that were different for the stage actor.
Do you remember when television was first coming out? Do you remember hearing about that? Did you think, oh, this has got a lot of possibilities, or did you think that's never going to work?
No, I think everybody knew it had possibilities.
Yeah.
what was interesting for me as a teenager, a young teenager, being in that milieu of the radio, is because we could see the television building being built just across the alleyway, and the experienced radio actors living in a state of mostly dread, because they had made a good living as radio actors, and would they make the transition to television? They didn't know. Some did, some didn't. So it was a major upheaval in the industry.
Yeah, that would be stressful, because I'm sure there was a lot of them maybe that they didn't, have the right look for on-camera work, but had a really good voice.
Exactly.
And that would be scary. Yeah. I could see that. So when you started doing television work, what was your first role? What was your first on-camera role?
Oh my, there was a big gap because as a radio actor, my voice broke, right? So I was working as a kid. And so I now had an adult voice. We also moved to the country. So nobody wanted me as an actor after that. Until many years later, when I'd gone to university, I'd done a lot of theater. I'd gone to England to theater school. I still had not worked on camera, even in that time. So I don't think I worked on camera until I came back to Canada in the 60s to the National Theatre School and did a few little things. But really, through that whole period of my life, I was a director in my terms, a director and an acting teacher. But I didn't really re-engage my career as an actor until the 1970s, late 70s. And yes, then I remember my kind of first camera roles. I did Dead Zone, the first David Cronenberg film. But you'll have to watch it no, you can't. Even if you watch it very carefully, you won't find me. I had 3 little scenes, and they're both on the cutting room floor. So IMDb says I'm in it, but I'm not. You
were on set, though.
I was on set, yeah. And 2 things I hated about acting in the theater is I hated makeup. I hated having to do makeup, and I hated curtain calls.
Oh.
So when I started to do film, the first things I did, I didn't need any makeup. And of course, there was no curtain call. I thought, well, that's great. This is fun. I didn't anticipate that eventually I would be destroyed by a cruise missile and have to be in hospital and repaired, and 4 hours of makeup would be required to accomplish that.
That's right. That's right. You didn't escape forever. What was your concern with the curtain calls? Why didn't you like those?
Basically, I felt kind of embarrassed. I still do. Because I still do it on stage, and I still feel kind of embarrassed. You finish fixing my car, you don't come out and go, clap, 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 well done.
Maybe you should.
Maybe we should. Yes, we should clap for everybody's work or nobody's work. But why mine? And often the timing is, even as an audience, I don't especially like it, because sometimes I don't like what I saw, so I don't really want to clap. But sometimes I love what I saw, and I still don't want to clap, because I want to let it sink in. I want to absorb it. I want to clap tomorrow or whatever. So sometimes it's an intrusion. Sometimes it feels just right, but often it's kind of an intrusion.
Yeah, I kind of get that. And it's uncomfortable, I think, a little bit for the audience as well, because you never know, how much clapping is appropriate. Do you stand? Everybody's just kind of looking at everybody else, trying to figure out, are we standing? Or are we going to just,
exactly.
What are we doing?
Sure.
So before we talk about the book, I wanted to mention that my mother, huge Airwolf fan, and she said that she remembers you on a couple episodes of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I took her word on that.
It was one of those situations where we thought the series was going to keep going, but we were in the 2nd season, I think, and it didn't keep going. And so I did the 2 episodes, and that was what I did.
Well, she remembered. She was a big Jan Michael Vincent fan. I said Airwolf, but it was really Jan Michael Vincent that she liked. The show was just okay for her, but she remembered you on it. I always do this thing when I have somebody on the show. I go around to everybody in the family. I'm like, what have you seen them on? You know, and it's surprising sometimes what you get. My mother probably never watched X-Files, so she didn't know that one. But now everybody else, of course, X-Files is what they especially like the kids, they didn't watch X-Files until the new ones came out a few years back. And then they went back and kind of binged all the episodes with that. Can you talk a minute about just kind of that role? And did you know right away that this was, there was some meat to this role, or did it surprise you, just how popular you became on that show?
I think not only did it surprise me, I think it surprised them. Because the show never really had a Bible like some shows do. So it didn't sort of show what the storylines were going to be or whatever. They just kind of did what they did and see where it went. It's just partly why it was a success, I think, because it had that flexibility. Yeah. So my first role in the pilot, I didn't have any lines. I just kind of stood around looking menacing and watching.
You did that well.
Yes, apparently. So no, I didn't see. I mean, first of all, a show about alien abduction. I mean, how's that going to go anyway? Nobody's going to watch that. So I didn't have much faith in the show as a series, or much faith in my role within that series. But as we know, things developed unexpectedly and to my delight. Yeah.
It's such a cult show. The fans of it just absolutely love it. When you first got the role, was the cigarette in the role, or was that something you added? Yes. Okay, so it was.
That was it. Was. Yeah, the character from the beginning was called the cigarette smoking man.
Yeah, it's probably one of the more iconic TV characters that we've had in the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. So is the truth out there?
Could you elaborate on that question a little bit, or narrow it down a little bit?
X-Files spawned so many other shows, when it first came out. And I remember, because Fox was fairly new as a network, there wasn't anything like that really on TV. And since then, now, especially with streaming services, you have all kinds of shows that are kind of in that genre. And I think that's really neat, and kind of shows just how loved that show was.
And it had various kind of strands of appeal. I mean, obviously, there's the whole science fiction and space travel, potential aliens. There's all of that. But it seemed too that in the early days, a lot of what they did was they took what some people believed, and most people didn't, but some people believed, and said, well, suppose that was actually true. I mean, suppose you really did have past lives.
Right.
Or suppose you had, what would that mean if that was true? And a whole kind of X-file would develop around that. So, and then of course there was the whole X-file, the whole shipper thing, the relationship between Mulder and all of that. And then there was what we called I forgot what we called that whole series of the through line that had to do with the alien abduction and my role with the aliens. What was I doing with them? What was my deal? How was I controlling things? But even that sort of evolved as we went on. And when we first started, I thought I was really the big boss of something.
Right.
and then we had some episode where there's a whole group of elderly people, and I come into the group, and the guy in front says I'm late. Well, I mean, who's he to tell me that I'm late? I mean, then I had to reorganize my.
That's right. That's right. You were maybe you had some bosses you had to report to.
Yes, exactly. I was their man in Washington. I was not the head guy of the conspiracy as I had thought that I was. And
did you put that into the role at all? Did you did you play the character like he was the boss and then have to adapt to kind of like, oh, well, he's not the big boss?
To some degree. I mean, because I guess I was always a boss of something.
That's right.
So that kind of commanding part of the character was always kind of there. But yeah, it did. Yeah, but when I had to adjust, well, in a long running series with no Bible, things keep changing somewhat. So you do have to keep adjusting what your backstory is. And it's not always consistent through
that's right,
9 years of shows, or in our case, I guess ultimately 11 years of shows.
That's right. It ended up being a really long running show.
I mean, who would have thought I was Mulder's father? At the beginning.
Not me at the beginning.
No, not me either.
Do you have a favorite episode looking back at the series?
A couple. There's one called Talitha Kumi, in which was based on a Dostoevsky novel, actually, and I think it was Dostoevsky. Anyway, but where I really debated with the alien, and we had this whole confrontation in his cell. And then I also had flirtations with Mulder's mother. We actually even talked about water skiing and how I was a better water skier than Mulder's father, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was fun. I really loved to do that. And I really enjoyed, I forgot the titles of them, a couple in the reboot. There was where it was more focused on me and that whole storyline. So
what did you think when they called you back, for the reboot? It's been a long time in between when the series ended. Were you like, oh yeah, I'm in, or were you like, I don't know if I want to go back to that or not?
Oh, no, I was definitely in. There's no doubt I was in, and in some sense, not totally surprised, because the fans had been leaning on that for years. They thought it was going to be another movie, but they were hinting that something was going to happen. And one had a sense that Chris was trying to make something happen all that time. He's still trying to make something happen. Something new could still happen.
That'd be great.
Yep. So no, I was 100% for jumping back in. Absolutely.
Oh, that's terrific. So let's talk about the book. So this is your second book, and I want to get the name of the first one right. So the first one was Where There's Smoke, The Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man.
Right.
So you wrote that one. Was that during the show?
It was just towards the end, I guess. It was like I guess it probably certainly while I was right in the height of the fame of the show. And it's very well, it has quite a lot about X-Files. It has a lot about my personal life as well. It's a very personal narrative, or a very personal story about my life and about my life in the X-Files. And I tell way too much about my life, and I tell way too much about the X-Files. But anyway, that's what I did there. And I talked a little about acting, which is absorbed to be all my life, but only kind of tasting it. And so what I wanted to do was to write a book that really told the story of me in relation to acting and what I know about acting. And so the book is kind of modeled on Stephen King's book called On Writing, where the first half is a memoir of his career as a writer, not his personal memoir, but his memoir as a writer. And this, for me, the same thing. It's my personal life, my life as a professional theater artist, I guess, and which was a strange, unusual journey. And I shouldn't put it in the past tense, it's still going. But anyway, and then,
there might be a third book.
And then what did I learn about acting? What do I know about acting? because I've seen it from so many different angles and so many different ways. I have a what may be a unique, but certainly an in-depth look at this craft. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really great way to write a book. So you've got the first half talking about, you know, your journey as an actor and your relationship with acting. And then the second part is really, I mean, it could be used by somebody that's either wanting to improve their acting or somebody that's wanting to get into acting.
Absolutely.
It's like a coaching guide.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's so neat. Did you reach out to Mr. King and say, you know, I'm kind of patterning this after your book. Would you like to do the foreword?
You know, I haven't, and it's actually a lovely idea. I wish I had, because I kept forgetting that Stephen King was a fan of our show, of X-Files.
Yeah, he was.
So in fact, I had much more of a connecting link than I actually realized. I did send it out to a lot of famous people like Chris Carter and David Duchovny and Brian Cox, and people who gave me wonderful endorsements for the book. But I didn't go to Stephen King, and that would have been fun. Yeah.
When you work on a show or in a play or movie, I mean, do other actors come up and ask you questions about acting, or is that kind of off limits?
No, they don't. As a rule, no. I would say that doesn't happen. And so much of what we do on set, anyway, is quite quick.
Right.
And so, you know, we have to be kind of on what we're doing. In the theater, of course, we're in stage work. I've done a lot of directing in the theater, and in that case, they do talk to me about the process. But it also, it's actor to actor is a delicate relationship. You don't want to be seen coaching the other actors, even though
that's right.
Even though you might go, "Oh God, that's wrong. You can't say it like
you
that."
might want to. You don't leave them a note that's unsigned in their locker.
An idea. Thank you. A fan sent a letter saying, "Why did you say it this way?"
Just something to think about. Do you still have your acting school?
No. It still exists. It still kind of has my name attached to it, but it's been absorbed into a larger school, a larger filmmaking school, and it's called still the William Davis Center at Van Arts, and it still reflects some of the traditions that we had and some of the teachers that we had. But no, I'm on their advisory committee, but apart from that, I'm not directly involved.
Yeah. When you look at your acting and your methods, you know, looking at there's a lot of acting methods out there. You know, is yours, you know, is there some of those that you're like, I don't really agree with that one? Did that help you kind of form your own, or did you just say, well, those are good, but that's not for me, so this is what I do?
Well, I think we all do this. Those are good, but mine is better. I mean, for instance, there's the acting teachers who say to learn all your lines by rote before you even come to rehearsal. So you know backwards, inside out, blah, 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 blah. This to me is deadly, certainly deadly for me. I have a very good visual memory, and I know lots of actors who do. And it's very easy for them to look at the page, absorb the page, and basically put it in your brain. So there you are. You might as well be a radio actor because you're reading the script. It's just that it's in your head and not in your hand. You have not absorbed it. You have not made it yours. You have not found out why you have to say what you say. And that's the kind of essence of what I work for, is why do I do what I do at the way that I do it, at the time that I do it, in the exact way that I do it? And if I have the answer to those questions, then I know the lines. I mean, because that's what I have to do. And then I don't anticipate anybody else's lines because I'm not thinking about them, except as things that influence me.
That actually makes sense to me. Not that I could act, but that makes sense to me because if you've got it memorized, you are kind of just waiting for your other actors to finish so you can get yours in there. So I kind of get that.
To me. That's terrible. That's terrible as an actor, you know. And the other thing actors do, they all do this, and I don't, is they highlight their lines. So now I'm watching in my head, I'm seeing this long unlit section. Here comes my big yellow section where I've highlighted my, and you don't want any of that in your head. Somehow you want to be in the imagined situation, experiencing it the way the character you're playing experiences it, so that you get surprised by what you hear. You don't, and that forces you to say what you say, not because you have prepared it and you have it ready. Oh, and you did it very well in rehearsal, so I'll do it the same way I did it in rehearsal. Here it goes. Here's my moment. And wait, here we go. There we go. No, it's not.
I don't think that's easy to do, though.
It's
I think
not
that's
easy to do.
Yeah, that's probably why most people don't act, because it's easier, I think, just to memorize the lines and say them. But obviously, you're not going to be nearly as good.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about because I was reading some in the book, you talk some about getting to a certain emotion. You know, like the role calls for you to be emotional or maybe to be angry or upset or whatever it is. So you talk a little bit about, you know, how you get to that emotion and how maybe you don't want to take it directly from your personal life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because I mean, it's a whole business of the method, which has its techniques where you draw from your personal life to access this emotion that you need in the story. And, you know, it works for people. It has a couple of drawbacks. One is that you may be just happy with that. So you get the emotion and you play the emotion. But audiences don't want to see an emotion. They want to see an action. So if the emotion doesn't drive you into action, then it's just an actor showing off. It's very impressive in acting class that you've got that, but it's not that impressive in the movie. It also there are other problems with it too, because so suppose you're playing one of those famous scenes where the detective comes to the door and is going to tell you that your son was killed in a shooting accident, or it was murdered. Right. So you have to have that grief happen, but you don't have that grief happen when you answer the door. You're not expecting the police to be there. You might be having a nice party at home. So you need to be in that mood. And then the mood has to change when you hear this news. So how do you make it change? And I've heard method teachers say, well, you prepare it out of your own experience, then you shut it down, and then you go to the door pretending to be something else, hear this, then release it. That seems all kind of complicated. It seems to me if I really imagine that I'm hearing for the first time that my son has just been murdered, that's going to provoke a reaction.
Yeah, because then it's a surprise. So the emotion is more genuine. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. This is my only acting experience, my only one. I was helping out a good friend. She was doing an audio drama, kind of like a radio, the old time radio show. And she needed somebody to play just a little part, couple paragraphs, but in it, I had to get emotional. So I had to have a reaction, which I was really nervous about, because I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get there. Well, then it got worse because she said, yeah, I got somebody to act opposite you. You can do it on Zoom. I was like, okay. So I get on Zoom. The other actor comes on. Well, the other actor is Ed Asner. That's who I'm acting opposite of. The first time I've ever done anything. So that did not help me with reaching the right emotion. I had emotions, but they weren't the ones that I was supposed to get to. So I was terrible. So then my wife comes and kind of talks to me a little bit. and got me there, got me upset.
Yeah.
So I could do the emotion, right? But she's drawing on stuff from my personal experience. So it was fine. I got through the scene. It was fine. But then the problem with that was I couldn't get out of it. I was sad like for 2 days after that.
Oh my.
Stuck in there. So that's why I think you should probably avoid using the personal stuff, because it's hard to turn that on, and once you turn it on, hard to turn back off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What other techniques are in the second half of the book?
There's
probably a ton.
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
But I think the best way to describe it maybe is a story of when I was a kid.
Okay.
And we were at the summer cottage. We had one day in the summer at the cottage where we were allowed to do whatever we liked. It was called the day you can do whatever you like. And we looked forward to that day all summer. And on that day, we did whatever we felt like. And my mother always told her friends, yes, they did whatever they felt like. They did exactly what they did every other day. It just felt different. It felt like
it was your choice that day, though.
And that's what you want to feel as an actor. You want to feel when you enter the shot or you enter the stage that you're going to do exactly what you feel like. And what you feel like will be the performance. So how do you get there?
Right.
An awful lot of that is in the preparation. How do you first prepare the script? How do you first look at it? I mean, if you read it too many times and you have a visual memory, it's going to start, going up in there as that page in your mind. What you want to be finding is the question you want to keep asking is, why am I saying this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And that leads you to all kinds of other questions, like, as people would say, well, who am I? I mean, why am I doing this? Well, why am I killing? Why do I kill? I'm Macbeth. Why do I kill Duncan? Not why do I play a murderous character who kills Duncan? Why do I kill Duncan? I have to change my personal imagined circumstances so that I would kill him. And that comes a lot in the exploration of the text. Then I've got a whole section in the book which I call tricks, traps, and techniques, because there are all sorts of little things that flummox an actor. I mean, not least of which is the fact that every time you look at the script or every time you do the script, the same thing happens. Every time I say this line, the other character says that line. And pretty soon, it's hard not to expect that the other actor is going to say that line. And you're saying it because you always say it, because this is where you move to the fireplace, or this is where you say it. And you lose complete track of why you would do any of those things, and it becomes habit. So how do you stop it becoming habit? So I need to have expectations that are different from what actually happens, so that when I say whatever I say, or whatever my line is, I expect something different. And that's not in the script. I have to imagine that. I have to think of that.
Like, how do you do that if the same thing keeps happening over and over?
Because I have to put myself in the space before that happens. And what would I be expecting? If I'm expecting to say, so I say to someone, I love you. And I expect them to say, I love you back. Right. And I say, I love you. And they say, too bad, I don't like you. But if I was expecting them to say, I love you back, boom. But if I'm prepared for them to say, too bad, I don't like you, it doesn't have the same effect. I need to expect something different from what actually happened.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me, because that would keep you kind of in the moment.
Exactly.
So that because normally, like in a conversation with someone in regular life, you don't know what they're going to say next.
Exactly.
Most of the time anyway. So why would you if you're, acting
exactly.
in a role?
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And
so are you good at the improv type of acting?
Well, I love improv and I love it to feel like improv. But most of the time, when you're dealing with a script, it has to match the script.
Right.
It can't. So, I mean, I remember watching Albert Finney in a rehearsal, and I'd swear he was improvising. I mean, it was so fresh. It was so alive. And I looked at the script and it's word perfect, absolutely word perfect. But it's absolutely feels like it's for the first time. Another thing that happens for actors all the time is you have a speech that's about blah, blah, blah. And so you kind of learn it from beginning to end. But in real life, that's not how we talk. We have an idea we want to get to, and now we're looking for the words that are going to get us to that point. But so often the actor doesn't have that point when they start to say the speech. They're just starting the beginning of the lines, and then they get there eventually. But that's not how people talk.
That's right. Yeah, most of the time people are talking, they have somewhere they're trying to get to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually makes I don't know that it would ever help me, but it makes sense to me, because you're really turning acting into just normal life. You know, you're making it so that your responses and your acting is how you would do if that situation was happening to you in regular life.
Precisely. Well put.
Yeah. I really like that. That's really great. Well, so William, the book is on acting and life, and it's out today. Yep. You know, where can we find it?
You could go straight to my website, which is williambdavis.com. Or you can go to Amazon, or you can go to Friesen Press, who are publishing it.
Yeah. By the way, your website is really nice. Do you do it yourself, or do you have somebody that keeps it for you?
I have somebody. She's married to me, though.
Oh, well, she does. Tell her she does a great job, because that's not easy. Websites, having a good website is not easy. So she's doing.
Oh, really that's good. Yeah. No,
yeah. So I wanted to mention a couple of things before we wrap up. We are loving you on Upload. That's one that we just started watching, and there you are again, playing kind of the villain.
But in comedy this time.
Yeah. It's a really well written show. We're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I saw that you've got a part in the Midnight Club that's coming out. We had a few of the actors on that were in Midnight Mass, which isn't related. It sounds like it is, but it's the same person doing the Midnight Club, and they're also performing in that. So that I saw that, and I was like, oh, yeah. When is that one coming out?
I don't know. I thought it would be by now, so it's going to be really soon.
It's going to be this year, though, right?
Oh, definitely this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping it moves along, and I'm hoping Netflix doesn't lose all its money, because my role is quite minor in season 1, but it's a prelude to a major part in season 2. So season 2 obviously has to get picked up, and then
that's right. We got to watch season 1 so we can make sure that season 2 happens.
Exactly. That'd be great.
William, anything else that you're working on that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
Not that you would see unless you were actually in Vancouver, working on a Harold Pinter play called No Man's Land, which we will do in Vancouver next late November, December. So that's and I'm expecting to be shooting season 3 of Upload quite soon, but I don't have details about that.
Yeah, that's exciting. I know you've done a lot of directing. Did you get to do any directing on X-Files?
You know, I didn't. I wished I had, and
I'm surprised.
I think I made my move too late. But yeah, I would have liked to have done that.
Outside of your books that you have written, do you do any other writing? Do you do screenplays?
I've done 3 or 4 short films, and I did.
Oh, nice.
I wrote a series that was a draft for the CBC because they were looking for a daytime series, and we won this whole contest. So from all across the country, but eventually they decided not to do a daytime series. So that didn't actually go anywhere, but maybe it's as well. It would have eaten up my life if it did, probably.
That'd taken up a lot of time.
Exactly. But I've had a couple of attempts at stage plays long ago, but I don't even know where they are now, and it's probably just as well.
I think it's one part of the book that I'm really enjoying is that it's a very nostalgic kind of look in the first part, because you started, back in the 40s, and you're kind of moving forward. So I enjoyed that because, it hits a lot of when I was growing up, when my parents were growing up. So I really enjoyed that. And it's an easy read. You can sit down and knock quite a bit out and absorb it really well. So I thought really, really well done. Haven't got I was skipping through the second part because I wanted to talk about it a little bit, but I haven't got there yet. I'm still on the first part, but really, really enjoying the journey.
Great.
Okay, so last thing, William, are you on social media? And if you are, where can we find you?
Well, I'm sort of on social media. I'm sort of on Twitter, and I'm sort of on Instagram. I'm still a little rusty with both. Rusty is not quite the right word. That would sound like I'd done a lot of it and it got tired. But no, I'm more a newbie, I think.
Yeah. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of funny stuff. It impresses me that all those high school kids are so fluent on Instagram. Yeah. I can't figure out how to do it. And of course, I'm on Facebook, and I have a Facebook fan page as well. Yeah.
I'm a member of that. Member of that one. Yeah. So, well, William, thank you so much for taking the time with me and for putting up with the technical issues we're having at the beginning.
No problem.
So it's probably an X-file that we should look into.
Maybe, or maybe one of those other acting teachers who doesn't like my method.
They're trying to shut you down. No, this has been terrific, William, and good luck in the future. And I know we're going to see you in a ton more, and I hope you write a third book.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hold on one second. That was the talented William Davis. I hope you guys enjoyed that. He is, I've always been a fan of his acting, but I suspect that he's an even better acting coach. His writing is really, really good, and I hope that you'll check out the new book. So it's On Acting and Life. And I'm about halfway through part one. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. There's some good stories in there, a lot of interesting stuff that I think if you're a fan of Williams, you'll really enjoy. And if you're wanting to get into acting, or you're already an actor, the tips and the techniques that he discusses in part two, top notch. And I was just skimming through, and I got a lot of stuff out of it, even though I'm not an actor. So I think you'll enjoy that. And apologies that we had a little bit of Zoom difficulties at the beginning. That happens on occasion. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us again this week. Really appreciate that. If you haven't done so yet, we could use the help on our YouTube channel, MeisterCon Pod. If you would subscribe, it would really help us out. We'd appreciate that. You can find all 400 or so episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, if we're going to a convention. I was talking off camera to William about, if he does conventions, and he does on occasion. So that may be something, if he's close to us, we may go and cover that. But all that will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys. Until next time. Bye, everybody.